Hey, hi, hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about my best books of 2020. So, I put a lot of thought into this, and I decided that the most fair way to do it was to go through my Goodreads list of everything that I read in 2020 that I rated 5 stars, and pick what I thought were like my really memorable books. I ended with 32 books, which I was like, okay, well that's too much. I can't just make a video with that. And then I was like, well, that's perfect for a bracket. So I did 2 styles of bracket. One is just classic NCAA style, 1v1 single elimination, all the way to a final winner. And then the other way I did was World Cup style, where you have a group stage, and 16 come out of that, and then they all, again, go into just a single elimination bracket style. So, the fun thing here is that in both cases, my top 2 books were the same. So, I think that's great. Let's start from the bottom. So I'm gonna give you my top 8 books. In 8th place is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. So I talked about this in my books that I read in December, and I think that, while it was very interesting and sort of magical and ethereal, it didn't hit me as hard as the rest of the books that are on this list, which is why it is in 8th place. In 7th place is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. And this is one of my top mysteries that I read all year, just because it's so nice to have a mystery novel where every single character has motive to kill the person who died. Like, I think that's just so unique. That's not something you see very much anymore. And I flew through this book. It was just like, I could not put it down. It was so good. 6th on my list is Shipped by Angie Hockman. And this may be recency bias, I don't know. But this was a good book. Like, I talked about it in my December wrap-up if you want to hear more about it. But this is a compelling romantic comedy with a female lead who is badass and not afraid to get what she deserves. And I would say a male counterpart who is completely supportive of that and wants the best for her. And that's just, I feel like that's something so admirable and something that we don't actually see in these romantic comedies very often. In 5th place is Seven Blades in Black, which is the first book in the Grave of Empires series, and it is a sassy fantasy full of debauchery and swear words, and honestly it's just so good. It's not your typical fantasy, because usually you would think of like kind of stuffy stuff, honestly, where this just feels like fresh and new and different. In 4th place we have One to Watch by Kate Stayman London, which is another romantic comedy. I was honestly surprised that there were 2 in my top 8, given that like they're not what I read that much, but it was good. This is based around sort of The Bachelorette. It has multimedia, that's the way to my heart, but it is about a plus-sized woman, B, who basically goes on a rant online about how, in all reality, like on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, all of the people look the same. There's no diversity in body type or skin color or anything like that. And someone from the producing team sees that and picks her to be basically the next Bachelorette. And there's all sorts of drama that come through this, right? Because of her size and how she acts and things like that. But she's such a compelling character that you find yourself rooting for her, you want her to be happy, you want everything to work out all right, and it's just so cute. In 3rd place is Harrow the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I don't think I said her last name right, but it's M-U-I-R. And this book is confusing. It's meant to be confusing, and I honestly didn't really understand what was happening in it until I watched Pierre Ford's video. and that's okay. But I will say that it was fun and it was interesting and it was just something completely new that I had not seen before from her or really anyone else. And as soon as Gil finishes reading Harrow the Ninth, I'm going to read Gideon and then reread Harrow to sort of like get a better understanding and be ready for when Electo comes out, whenever that is. But yeah, space, lesbian, necromancers. What more do you want? Let me know in the comments. So, number 2 on my list. And honestly, the difference between 1 and 2 was so close, but number 2 on my list is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. And this follows Enchanted, a young teenager who just wants to sing and be like noticed for her voice. But this book, it hurts. It hurts. This book shines a light on the music industry and the sort of the predators within it, and Enchanted's story throughout it all, as she is groomed by one of these predators. And like this book is hard. It like there were moments where I almost cried, which for me, who is basically like soulless when it comes to books, that's meaningful, I would say. And I don't own this book yet, but I will. Like, I'm very excited to pick it up and add it to my collection. So, before I give you my number 1 book, I do just want to go through and say at least the names of the books that made my Sweet 16. They're my honorable mentions for my book of the year. So that would be The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chakshi. I'm doing my announcer voice. The Daevabad Trilogy by S.A. Chakrabarty, because I didn't feel like it would be fair to put all 3 books in here separately. Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. Jade City by Fonda Lee. The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I don't think I said that right. I don't know how to say it. I'm sorry. The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. And Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I don't know why I committed to this bit so hard, but we're here, so that's what we're doing. And my number 1 book of the year is, I'm drumming on my desk because I can, Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. Oh! Book is so good. like I've been saying this basically since I read it in November. I was like, this is a good book. I really like this book. I'm gonna recommend this book to everyone I know. And so I did. And you've heard me talk about it. This follows a young black woman named Bree as she goes to college in the South. And it has this Arthurian fantasy. It covers themes on racism and both systemic and just blatant, honestly, as well as themes of grief, understanding your identity and growing into it. But all in all, it's a compelling fantasy story that crosses genres to actually have a more meaningful impact on the reader. This is technically a YA book, but it feels and hits like an adult fantasy book would. So that was my top 8 books for 2020. Let me know in the comments what your top book of 2020 is, if we have any in common. If you're upset that The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue did not make this list, I am too, I'm upset. It was like 17th, but you know, it is what it is. And as always, keep reading.